Hi! Welcome to another Empower Your English grammar video. My name is Caike, and today we are going to review and hopefully learn one thing or two about how to use comparatives and superlatives. You probably have already seen this before, so let's have a brief recap. If you want to compare two things, you will mostly use the comparative form. Look at this picture. John is taller than Bob. We can see that to use comparatives, we need first to choose which adjective, which characteristic we want to compare. In this case, the characteristic is tall, but it could also be short. Bob is shorter than John. In this case, the comparative form is the adjective plus the letters ER. Also, we need the word then to complete the comparative form. Adjective plus ER plus then. Now, look at this situation. The butterfly is more beautiful than the cockroach. Now, the adjective we used is beautiful. Notice that the comparative form changed. Instead of using ER in the end of the adjective, we use the word more before the adjective. More beautiful. More plus adjective plus then. Okay, but how do we know when to use ER or more? So we are going to have a quick sidetrack. To understand when to use ER or more, we need a quick explanation on how syllabes work in English. Why? Because we need it for the rule. For adjectives that are just one syllable, we add ER to the end. For two-syllable adjectives and in Y, we have to change the Y to I and add ER. For two-syllable adjectives not ending in Y, and for all three or more syllable adjectives, we have to use the form more plus adjective. Okay, how do we count syllabes in English? I heard this very hard. Well, it is, but don't worry. English is a vocal language, so every word must have a vowel sound. A, E, I, U, O, etc. If a consonant sound divides the vowel sounds, then we have two or more syllabes. For example, fast. Fast has one syllable. There's only one vowel sound, a, and the consonants don't separate the sound. The rabbit is faster than the turtle. Now look at this one, peaceful. Peaceful has two syllables, peace, full. The letter E in the middle is not pronounced, so it's not part of any syllable. Small towns are more peaceful than big cities. And remember, for two-syllable adjectives ending in Y, we have to change the Y to I and add ER. For example, sunny. Today is sunnier than yesterday. Look, there are other rules related to spelling. You can check them out clicking on the link on the description. Now, are there irregular adjectives and exceptions to the rule? Of course there are. All right, so let's start with the adjectives good and bad. Good becomes better in the comparative form. My team is better than your team. Bad becomes worse. Your team is worse than my team. Far is also an exception. It becomes further. Brasília is further from Rio de Janeiro than São Paulo. Now, let's expand a little bit. There are other ways to compare two things. If we want to say two things are the same in terms of characteristics, we use the expression S plus adjective plus S again. There is no change to the adjective. My new car is as fast as my old car. Burgers are as good as pizza. Science is as interesting as history. When we use er at the end of the adjective, or more when the adjective has 2 or more syllables, the meaning is that this characteristic is stronger. But sometimes we want to say that the characteristic we are talking about is weaker. In this case, we only need to use the word less before the adjective, no matter how many syllables it has or if it's irregular or not. This film is less good than I remember. I think that actor is less handsome than that other one. My nephew is less tall than his cousin. We can also add the word not before the structure s plus adjective plus s to indicate the characteristic is weaker. This film is not as good as I remember. I think that actor is not as handsome as the other actor. My nephew is not as tall as his cousin. Okay, comparatives are a very important tool in our studies. Of course, we use it to compare things, but we can also use it to indicate other ideas. Let's see some of them. When we want to indicate something is increasing, or decreasing and decreasing, we can use comparatives. Look, my niece is getting bigger and bigger. This situation is becoming more and more complicated. We are getting less and less clients. Something needs to change. We can also use the comparative to indicate that two things change in the same proportion. The more I practice, the better my English gets. The less I sleep, the more tired I get. Notice that to have this effect, we also need to use the article the before the comparative. Okay, you must be thinking, what about the superlatives? It was in the name of this video. This video is almost over and we haven't talked about superlatives yet. Don't worry. After understanding the comparatives, the superlatives are quite simple. In the comparative sentences, we compare two things. In the superlative sentences, we're also comparing, but we're highlighting one thing in a group. Susan is the tallest girl in the class. In this sentence, I'm comparing Susan to the rest of the girls in the class. Notice that instead of er after the adjective tall, I used est. I also used the article the before the adjective. The tallest. Now look at these sentences. That was the most complicated exercise of the test. This was the scariest movie I've ever seen. Bob is the best player in the team. I am the worst cook in my house. France is the furthest place I've traveled. Notice that the syllable rule and the irregular adjectives rule are the same in the superlatives as the comparatives, with slight differences. We use est in adjectives with one syllable. We use iest in adjectives with two syllables that end in y. And we use the most before adjectives with two or more syllables. The superlative of good is the best. The superlative of bad is the worst. And the superlative of far is the furthest. Ta-da! And there you are. No mysteries in using the superlative form. Remember, for more on the spelling rules and more uses on comparatives and superlatives, check our extra sheet on the link. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in knowing more about our course, click on the link on the description. You can also like and subscribe to our channel where we have tons of videos and clips for all levels. See you next time. Empower your English.